Now we're in our third chapter, and our character is now in his 30s. So he's moved along in life. And our third chapter is entitled Two Gallants. And again, our Doctor of Dictionary, Rafe Adnan, would tell us gallants are supposed to be knights. Knights errant. Errant means wandering. And the Code of Knights said that they were supposed to serve ladies. Ladies are of a certain social stature, have a certain genteel behavior. And they're supposed to go on quests, which means that they're supposed to conquer something. So a knight would kill a dragon to save a lady, or he would kill a bully to save a lady. That's what gallants are supposed to be. Now we're reminded that surfaces can be very deceiving. Don't forget Angel, when we meet him in Tess, is wearing a milking outfit over his real clothes. And so we are beginning the chapter finding out that it's the end of summer, a warm evening of August. Summer is a memory now. We know that the next season is fall, the dying season. We have two young men, supposedly young, walking along. One is Lenehan, the other is Corley. They come down the hill, and Corley has been speaking a monologue. Now, what's a monologue? Well, let's say you and I are having a discussion, and I do all the talking. Well, okay, after about 5 minutes, you're gonna pretend that you're paying attention, but not paying attention, and your mind might wander a little bit. But Corley is talking a monologue, and Lenehan is supposed to be listening. Corley's face is squat and ruddy, but little jets of wheezing laughter follow one another out of his convulsed body. And Lenehan is almost convulsing. We're reminded that in a stroke, you have a convulsion. Your body convulses. We're reminded that in a monologue, again, one person talks, there's no exchange, and there's no communication between these two men. Now, one of them was wearing a waterproof or jacket over his shoulder. And this reminds us that knights errant, wandering knights, often wore capes. So this is a distant and very feeble echo of being a knight back in those days. Lenehan is wearing this as if he's a bullfighter, but his figure is a little overweight at the waist. His hair is scant and gray, and his face has a ravaged look. He's in his 30s. He's not young anymore. He's not a youth. And even his voice lacks strength and vigor, lacks the youthful strength and vigor. His mood is serious and silent. Well, where's Lenehan been all afternoon? Well, he's been in a bar or a public house. Most of the people consider him a leech. He attached himself to a group of people that he really didn't know, hung out with them until they bought him a round of drinks, and maybe they bought him another round of drinks, and they just sort of blew him off. He does this. He has a stack of stories and limericks and riddles so he can entertain people. But is this who he really is? Our characters are now coming closer. We can hear them talking, and Corley's talking about a girl. And Lenehan wants to ask him, well, where'd you pick her up, Corley? A girl you can pick up. Oh, I spotted this fine tart under Waterhouse's clock. She had told me she was a slavey in a house. Okay, what's a tart? Well, it might be that thing you pop out of the toaster in the morning for breakfast. But if you look up another definition, a tart is, you got it, a loose woman, a prostitute. And this is what Corley is conquering. How much value is there in conquering a person that you pay to have relations with? And he talks about his conquest and how it went. I met her by appointment. He's bragging. I was afraid, man, she'd get in the family way, though. So apparently when they got into bed, he was afraid she was going to become pregnant. In the family way means becoming pregnant. But he said, she's up to the dodge. Well, I don't know what the dodge is, So he doesn't really want to be committed or serious about anybody. He just wants to do things with them. She thinks I'm a bit of class, though, Corley brags. Well, okay, Corley, you're not really that handsome, that good looking, and you're going with prostitutes. I mean, how much class is there to that? So maybe this girl isn't too bright. Maybe she's simple-minded. Corley might think he's a lady killer, but here it is. He walked with his hands by his sides, holding himself erect, swaying his head from side to side. His head was large, globular, and oily. It sweated in all weathers. He set it up on sideways, looked like a bulb which had grown out of another. Okay, this is no handsome man by any means. He's also known as a police informant. He rats on people. He's a narc, a snitch. He knew the inner side of all affairs, is fond of delivering final judgments. His conversation is mainly about himself, so he's self-centered, and he thinks he's a lady killer. Okay. The two young men walked through the crowd, occasionally turned to smile at one of the passing girls. They're checking out the girls from the backside. I think you know what that means. The physical thing is still there like it was in the previous chapter. I suppose you'll be able to pull it off. Tonight, Corley's going to attempt something. Lenehan's very interested to see if he can accomplish it. We don't know what it is just yet. We'll find out. And says that Corley says, she's all right. I know the way to get around her, man. She's a bit gone on me. And Lenehan jokingly calls him a Lothario. Lothario is a seducer, someone who gets you to do something you don't want to do. Lenehan, toward his friend Corley, is both mocking and servile. He wants to be his second in command. At the same time, he's making fun of him. But now Corley begins to complain. First, I used to go to girls. The damn thing I ever got out of it. Okay, well, we know what he wanted to get out of going with girls, and he didn't get it, so he's upset about it. It didn't work out the way he wanted it to. Only off of one of them, though, Corley said. I made a conquest there. He's bragging again. He calls her a bit of all right. There's no humanity here. It's like she's a morsel of food he popped into his mouth. And he says she's on the turf. Now, this is a real old expression. And you know I'm dating myself if I could find out what it meant. I found out back in college. To be on the turf, for a woman to be on the turf means you got it. She's a streetwalker. She's a prostitute again. And so he's almost bragging, Corley is, that whatever he did to her almost turned her into a prostitute. And it's a terrible life for her. But Corley's bragging about what he's going to do tonight. And Lenehan's really interested. He wants to know, are you sure you can bring it off? All right. What's he going to attempt? Are you going to try to walk on water or something? And Corley gets angry. He says, don't worry, I'll pull it off. All right. And Lenehan doesn't want to ruffle his friend's pride. He doesn't want to ruffle his friend's temper. So he has to show some tact. Because this is a big deal, whatever he's going to do tonight. Then Corley brags again. He says, she's a fine, decent tart. Okay, we've got a contradiction in terms here. How can a woman who's a prostitute be decent? How can she be fine? Fine means attractive. Well, we'll have to wait and see. As they walk down the street, they encounter a harp player. He's playing his harp. He's playing heedlessly and listlessly. He's not paying attention to what he's playing, and he's kind of not very energetic. Well, all right. Harps, spiritual symbol. Angels play harps in heaven. But he's not paying attention to what he's playing, and he's not playing with very much energy. And a little while later, we hear that both our characters, and Lenehan especially, is heedless of life. He doesn't really care about his life. He's weary of life. He's tired of it. Listless means tired. The two young men walked up the street. They don't speak. And now they round a corner, and they're going to see the girl Corley's going to go on a date with. And Lenehan wants to see her too. Let's have a squint at her, Corley. And Corley's uncertain and insecure. You're trying to get inside of me? Trying to pick her up for me? No, I just want to see her. Okay, look at her, fine. I'll go over and talk to her and you can pass by. Right. Okay. And so Corley, Mr. Lady Killer, who's got a globular, oily head that sweats in all weathers, and a head that looks like a bulb going out of another bulb, walks across the street as if he is the conquering hero on his way to a quest. And Lenehan's squinting around the corner trying to get a look at this girl, and he does. And here's the description. Lenehan's eyes noted approvingly her stout, short, muscular body. Frank, rude health glowed in her face, on her fat red cheeks, and in her unabashed blue eyes. Her features were blunt. Well, is she attractive? Or uncertain again about who it is that Corley's going to conquer tonight? What's going on here? She's not really that... We don't hear that she's drop dead gorgeous. We don't hear that she's a model. We don't hear any of that. We hear these other things. Not that attractive, apparently. And now Corley is departing from Lenehan with the woman, and Lenehan is left alone. And now that he's alone, his face looks older. His happiness or gaiety forsakes him. And the air the harpist had played, the listless, sad air, begins to control him too. He walks listlessly, again, no energy in him at all. He becomes morose, he's sad, downcast. His brain and throat are dry. Remember, he's been in a bar drinking all afternoon. And he's very troubled. Without Corley, he's got too much idle time on his hands and no idea what to do with it. Walks along the street. The street is somber. Lenehan is somber. Goes into a restaurant, orders a plate of peas, sits down to eat it. He speaks roughly to belie his air of gentility. Gentility is refined behavior, good manners. He has the air of it, but not really. He's very self-conscious, and he has a vision in his mind about Corley and the pair of lovers. Is that what they're going to be, lovers? Walking along some dark road. The vision makes him Lenehan feel poor, both in spirit and in his wallet. And he begins to ask himself questions. He's been knocking about for a long time. He's 30, we're going to be 31 in November. He doesn't have a good job. He doesn't have a home. He doesn't have a wife. He doesn't have a family. And he's bitter. His heart is bitter against the world. He just wants to meet some good, simple-minded, not very bright girl with some of the ready. He wants to meet a not very bright girl who's got money, so I guess she can support him while he does nothing. Goes out and starts wandering some more. At the corner of Georgia Street, he met two friends, stops to converse with them. But it's idle talk. No meaning to it at all. It's meaningless talk about bar life. Well, did you see so-and-so, and so-and-so, and so-and-so? And he's alone. And he sees groups of peoples and couples. He's not in a couple. Saying goodnight to one another. He has no one to say goodnight to him right now. And his active mind returns to that useless wandering. He's getting very nervous because the big event with Corley is about to happen. He hopes Corley can pull it off. He thinks he's so nervous it's almost like he's in a situation himself. And he sees them. They're coming toward him. The young woman is walking. They don't seem to be speaking. He figures Corley's going to fail for sure. And they talk for a few moments. The young woman goes down the steps into the area of the house. Then she comes out again. And then she leaves. Runs up the steps and goes into the house. Some date. Corley walks across swiftly the street. Lenehan hurries toward him. He's very anxious, Lenehan. He's got tremendous anxiety right now. Doesn't know if it came off okay. Corley's face is composed and he's turned calm. And now we get to the very last paragraph, and it says, Corley halted at the first lamp and stared grimly before him. Then, with a grave gesture, he extended a hand towards the light, and smiling, opened it slowly to the gaze of his disciple. A small gold coin shone in the palm. When I get to the end of this chapter, I always say, okay, what happened here? What went on between Corley and the girl? Why has he got a coin in his hand? What was it? There's a long pause. In some years, somebody gets it. In some years, nobody gets it. What happened here is that Corley had the woman pay him to, that's right, do that thing with her. In other words, Corley is a male prostitute. He's been paid for sex. And at this point, we step back and say, wait a minute now. This is about as low as you can get. You can't go any lower than this on the scale of morality or meaningfulness or anything. And this is what Lenihan's hanging out with. Well, we hope when we meet him next time, he'll have something better to show for his life. But this is beyond sad. The next story is A Little Clout.